it is reported, I have, you are official, will definitely be speaking to us. It is reported that they are still in 390 billion areas, and this is largely attributed to VAT. That is it. Yet, on their heads is a 30 trillion target that they need to meet. Where is the conversation? Who needs tobacco? Where should the middle line be drawn? It's a conversation that we're going to have to understand the plight of the traders, but also understand the squeaky position that the taxman is in. So today I have Ssekito, the spokesperson of KACITA. Welcome to the show.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to greet everybody there. I know many of my friends, many of the traders are still home. They have an opportunity today to watch us live.
Absolutely.
At times they are moving with the boxes and what we are communicating is not directly. So today we have a chance to talk to them live.
And we shall have pictures that are coming from downtown to show the situation as it is. The producer should be putting all those pictures such that people have an idea of what we are talking about. Pamela Nantambi, she's a partner head at PwC. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Dalton, and welcome, viewers.
Okay, and finally, the taxman is here. Twaha Kayondo, domestic tax officer from Uganda Revenue Authority. Welcome to the show.
Dalton and dear viewers, a very good morning. Of course, I'm happy to be here as we try to discuss issues that are pertaining traders and taxation at large.
Okay, let me straight away shoot to Ssekito. Many people think that the EFRIS that we are talking about majorly, people are, it's a challenge of yesterday. But we are ably told that this is the conversation that has been on about not only EFRIS but also other taxes, not other, and taxes, because there is a confusion. People are calling EFRIS a tax out there. What are your major concerns, and why now, not yesterday?
It is a very tricky question, but you know, EFRIS is a victim of circumstance. There have been overdue challenges that have not been solved, and the EFRIS is becoming the switch so that the light can even see the other challenges that have been pending for quite a while. Over 3 years, you remember we came here complaining about taxes on garments in kilos.
Yeah.
We argued with the Ministry of Finance, who are the regulators and the overseers of the Uganda Revenue Authority, about how East African as a community has harmonized on the taxes for garments and textiles at 35% as the highest. And also how it is almost becoming an offense under the WTO GATT Evaluation Agreement that any member of a regional bloc who charges above the highest commits an offense. And this was in the reference to case that was taken to the WTO by United States against the Argentine, complaining about the very same tax that Uganda is complaining about. They said for garments and textiles within the region and the customs jurisdiction that they are would be 35%. Argentina, in trying to protect their home industries, they blocked through taxation in kilos, exactly $3.5 per kg on garments and $3 for textiles, as the case is in Uganda. So the matter was raised to the WTO, and a panel was set. The ruling went in favor of the US, and there a verdict through Section 2 of the GATT Evaluation Agreement does not allow Uganda or Tanzania or any other country to charge anything above 35%.
Yes.
It is being done with impunity. And the implication is that you either pay 35% or $3.5, whichever is the higher. And the two are not relating. A container that fetches between 150 million Uganda shillings to 200 using the agreed rate. Instead, when you use the $3.5 per kg, this fetches between 500 and 600 millions. 4 times as much.
Have you made these concerns to
We
government?
have made these concerns to everybody, to an extent that even the Commissioner General was lured to our side. He communicated to the Minister of Finance, the PSST, to address this. And we didn't ask all the 47 items that they left on the line. We only asked for 3 items, which are almost a must load for everybody who brings a container from outside. These are the stocks, which are even not made here, the jumpers for the young and teenage, the vests like the one I'm putting, and the t-shirts. We said if we remove the 4, we can relax. Uganda Revenue Authority tried with us, with everybody, by the Minister of Finance, for whatever reason. They said, no, we need to protect the industries. As if that was not enough, we also raised another concern. The Chinese who are bringing the items here, I'm sorry to be particular, because this is actual. And they are the ones who own the factories in Namunkekera and also in Mbale. So what happens, you go, you buy 10,000 copies of t-shirts at a price agreed. The same person in your next door at the neighborhood at Nabugabo opens a shop. A customer that comes to buy from you is lured by the same manufacturer who brought a shop, and they have several shops around the whole town. So you don't see sense in why you procure from this person who is the next competitor, yet is a manufacturer. So we cited the investment code of 2019 amended, section 23. It says that a person from a foreign origin must adhere to the licensing that you came to serve. And if you persist, the license is should be revoked. We also went to the ministry and they cited section 101 of the Trade Licensing Act. It completely stops KCCA and any other authorities across the country to allow ISA or anybody to hide a foreigner behind and then secures a trading license with a view of opening a small business, be it a shop, be it a kiosk, be it anything. All these we raised to the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives because they are our entry point into the ministry and the government. Unfortunately,
no one is listening.
No one. This was on the 23rd of August 2023 when we wrote to the PS of Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives and all other authorities, including...
And for avoidance of doubt for the viewers, is Geraldine Sally.
Geraldine Sally.
Yes.
I don't always discuss personalities, but I'm tempted to question the abilities of the current permanent secretary of the Ministry of Trade and Industry and Cooperatives. She waited until we went to General Sale in Namunkekera to bring the Chinese, to bring the Ministry of Trade, to bring Investment Authority, and then order the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives to listen to our woes. Can I tell you when we met the PS at her office in the boardroom, there was one person who was confusing us among us, the business community. I don't want to mention that. The 10 groups of people who went to Namunkekera for these matters to be addressed, I am telling you, we raised a matter of concern that this person is always misinterpreting us. Can you meet him alone? Even on invitation, we mentioned that. The person came, we rose up, we requested her to humbly see us, the 9 groups separately, and then engages the other group that was disturbing us. I am telling you, the woman in my face said, "You get out."
That's the permanent secretary.
That's the permanent secretary.
Asking the traders delegation.
We all got out under my command. The Chinese got out. She remained with a single party. We thought, this was in February, we thought this party...
So the single party, is it among the traders?
Yes,
or?
among the traders, but you see when you are managing society, you can see whom you can relate with, you can try to adjust, but if somebody cannot adjust, you isolate.
The taxman,
yes.
Are you alive to the challenges of the traders?
Definitely, we are not on planet Mars as the tax officials in Uganda. We realize the challenges they are going through, like he has said, Mr. Ssekito. The Uganda Revenue Authority command, at one point, has sided with them in their wars. However, because when you get into the legal framework, there are line ministries that are supposed to handle specific issues. And therefore, when it comes to issues of trade, harmonization, licensing and all that, it gets to the Ministry of Trade, which, as a person coming from URA, I may not be parted really digress much.
Yes, that's true.
About what is happening. But on the side of URA, whatever pertains our side, we are really willing to have a dialogue. Like Mr. Ssekito can bear witness. They have always come to our top brass and then discussed issues, agreed on how issues should be implemented. But because the legal framework does not give the URA mandate to solve some of those issues, they have to be channeled.
But at least there's something that, for instance, the front runner to this discussion has been the EFRIS.
Yes.
And the Ssekito group, allow me call it, have said, give us more time. Or go and sensitize people. That is within your mandate. You can ask your line minister to do, and you seem not to be responding. You're inelastic.
Dalton, what you should understand is one. Perhaps EFRIS is a victim of circumstance, like you have already realized.
Yes.
It is just a spark.
One problem at a time.
It's just a spark. You know, I'm a student of history. When you go back and you see what happened to spark the First World War, it wasn't that... but the murder of Archduke Ferdinand sparked the First World War.
Yes.
But there were many factors that led to that. So EFRIS is just acting as, the traders are using EFRIS as a spark. At URA, EFRIS came into force by law. And we started implementing EFRIS on the 1st of July 2020 as per law required. And we have been moving smoothly with these very traders, okay? So along the way, as we are implementing EFRIS, and then with a bulk of issues, the baggage that's underlying the traders, they are like, okay, now. And we are at a point, you know, when someone corners you at a point of no return, you realize that we are operating a deficit, we have a mountain to climb, and value-added tax. We are looking at value-added tax as our catching point, as our big monkey that we can leverage on using the technology solution in EFRIS, okay, to bridge the gap. Like we have already said, and the way you hinted when we were starting this program, that now the traders are putting, in quotes, EFRIS as a new tax. But I think Mr. Ssekito and listeners and the viewers out there and the traders themselves, who I believe are watching us live today because most of their shops seem to be closed,
Yes.
they know that EFRIS is just an invoicing solution. And we have been using this EFRIS. They have been using this EFRIS. EFRIS has positives on the trader side, and it is a solution that URA came up.
We shall delve into that.
Yes.
I wanted to understand whether you are alive to these challenges and why the traders have asked you, wait a minute, hold up, let's first sort this thing, then perhaps you can, and you have the mandate to do that. Yes, please.
Read properly. Where did the EFRIS go wrong? The mandate of EFRIS, as Arya explained it to us, the leadership of KACITA, for example, was that it covers people who are VAT registered and who can have a turnover of 150 million as turnover per annum. Although we have already raised the concern over raising this turnover per annum, and we discussed it at the Ministry of Finance even yesterday, but this is where the problem came. URA somehow mismanaged this implementation. When they went to Chikubo and they blocked off the entrance and the exit, they targeted people who are buying the items. Chikubo is such a micro place that there are so many people we call abayiribi. Somebody picks a box, sells it, gets another one of Colgate, sells it, and then gets the markup. This person that is taking, or the cargo lifter that is taking the cargo, cannot claim that all the items have been bought from one shop. Now you are asking for an EFRIS receipt
from
a single buyer. So when you ask an EFRIS receipt from this person, some were running away and abandoning the cargo for fear of the unknown. Now these are military people with URA people at the Chikubo entrance.
URA deployed the military?
So what happened? They said, no, take us where you have bought. You have collected from 5 shops. Now where are you going to take them? We intervened and solved some of these issues, but it persisted. So what happened? Some weak people from the revenue and from the forces started asking for kitu kidogo. You talk like a man. We got pictures, I'm not alleging, and sent them to the Commissioner General. We said, you see, as a purpose of this, these people asking for money, you have this, some were arrested. Now, we went back to the drawing board and advised the Uganda Revenue Authority, please, you have a list of all the people in Chikubo that are registered for EFRIS. Why don't you, one-on-one, and quietly and politely ask them why they are not complying? In the process, you can also ask others who joined wrongly because they are deregistering, those that joined before they go even to the tire of 150 million per annum. Remove them. While you also join new ones, does not need the aggression that you are using. As if this would catch the eye of the CG. So it started going riotous when traders thought KACITA was not helping them. So if EFRIS had been implemented as the guidelines that had been provided to us, there would be no fracas. So you are here charging taxes in kilos. Chinese are chasing out of business. The value guideline is now being determined in the State House by the Chinese who go to the president. And now you want every Tom and a Dick in Chikubo to subscribe to EFRIS. What did you expect?
Very interesting. I'm going to bring you back to that very question, but I don't want to, Pamela, who is a tax expert, to be just there enjoying the conversation. We need to tap into her very wealth of knowledge. You've had, Pamela, has this trader, taxman, government, Ministry of Trade issue be handled, in your view, in the right manner?
Thank you, Dalton. It's a very interesting conversation, and I was listening into the two gentlemen and nodding because, you know, Mr. Ssekito here is raising very valid points. The informal sector in Uganda is a very big sector. In fact, it accounts for over 50%. 70? Yeah, so about 70% now. So we have a sector that has very big potential, very, very big potential in terms of, if tapped into appropriately, they will contribute significantly to the economy. And from what I'm hearing from Mr. Ssekito, they are actually willing to cooperate because, he's giving examples of the fact that they've engaged with the Commissioner General. They've spoken to the Ministry of Finance. They're speaking to the Ministry of Trade. So what, again, I'm hearing is an issue around the approach, the way we are handling the traders. They want to come round to the table. They want to be listened to. They want somebody to understand what are the challenges that you're facing. And ultimately, can we then work together to find a solution? And I agree that this EFRIS thing is really a tip of the iceberg. There's so much that has been boiling underneath.
Indeed.
And one of the things that I think, and you're here, Mr. Twaha, the URA that could possibly do is to say, what approach, how can we change our approach? People need to understand, for starters, what tax means. If you introduce a tax, what is it? As you can clearly say, people think EFRIS is a tax. It's not a tax. EFRIS is just a mechanism, yeah? Do we know whether all the traders understand that? Now, before they even understand, then you come, you know, applying force, approaching them in a manner that makes them feel not understood and not heard. That's the starting point. Secondly, URA has structures. You have, for corporates, for example, you have put relationship managers. Why don't we have a desk, for example, that is dedicated to our traders to say, this desk here is to be able to, you know, come, speak to us if you have challenges. If you don't know what to do with EFRIS, if you're struggling to comply, if the system is a challenge to you, come and we have a conversation. Take it away from that desk. Visit the traders, not in a manner where you go with the military, but visit them to say, you know, we want to know how you're doing. What are the challenges you're facing? Is this EFRIS thing working? And in fact, try and say, if you get it wrong the first time, let's see how you've got it wrong and how we can help you. But what I'm hearing is, and I have friends who are traders downtown. Now it's no longer, you know, people that just got their money and went downtown. Some people are in the corporate world, they are trading downtown. So we speak. And they will tell you that they receive assessments that, you know, penalties because you're not complying, but nobody has gone to speak to them to say this is the issue. And that's becoming a challenge. So people are boiling with all these things. They're saying we're paying taxes, and maybe that's another thing we can speak to Dalton at some point. We are not seeing what these taxes are doing, because a tax creates a social contract for the government. And while we may, you know, think these things, seeing people starting movements on social media, you know, about potholes and all these things, we can overlook them. But people are actually speaking loud and saying we're paying our taxes. We're not seeing these taxes doing the things they're supposed to be doing. All those things collected together are what is leading to what we are seeing now, Dalton, in my view. So we need to change approach. We need to engage. We need to listen. We need to give people the appropriate education. We need to give them time to understand these taxes and to be able to comply, to help them to comply. Okay.
Thank you very much, Paula. We definitely take a break, and on return, we shall be speaking to our taxman, that is kind of to understand where he continues to be indifferent to the challenges that have been highlighted by Mr. Ssekito. Stay here. Interesting conversation here at the Political Command Center. My name is Dalton Kawesa, and this is NBS Television. We are discussing the standoff between the traders and government, that extension, awaiting a meeting that they've been promised. Would that meeting happen? We are not even very sure that that meeting with the president, it will happen. This reminds us of the 1996 VAT strike. Those that were present, I think only 2 people were present. I don't think Pamela was present at that time. And 1996, when VAT strike paralyzed this country. Well, let's go to the field. I have Hakim Wampam, but first give us what is happening on the streets of Kampala. Hakim, give us a situation update on the business or the lack of in Kampala.
Well, Dalton Kawesa and every loyal viewer of NBS Morning Breeze, police deployment continues to be heavy downtown Kampala. If you could just be able to take a look at the pictures right there, police is heavy. And all the shops, almost all the shops in Chikubo, because the last time we got an update from around this area, we were seeing some of the shops actually open. That are down here are almost closed, and the traders have just chosen to sit. The ones that you are seeing right here, some of them are hawkers, some of them selling things right from there, but many of the shops are right here closed. And it is the same that is happening across all the streets. If you go by Barton Street and Market Street, even up to Mukwana Arcade, most of the shops are actually closed, meaning that the traders have stood firm to their promise of having the shops closed today on the 16th, and they say that they will keep the shops under key and lock until the president meets them on Friday. But then again, we need to still remind you that police and security deployment downtown Kampala is very, very heavy, and you do not want to commit any mistake by wreaking any havoc around here, because police and other security agencies, including military police, are making foot patrols right here in Chikubo Business Center. We have been able to speak to the traders a little earlier. They've told us that much as they are seeing the heavy police deployment, they're not going to be frightened. And now joining me is the chairman of the Kampala Arcaders Association, KACITA, Mr. Katongole Geoffrey. A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Amanya Katongole Godfrey, chairman Kampala Arcaders Traders Association KACITA, o president, vice president, futa. Olwairo tugaddewo amaduuka gaffe mu kibuga Kampala ne Uganda yonna nga guno gwe mulundi ogwokusatu nga tuggalawo twatandikanga ennaku z'omwezi 8 naye ennaku z'omwezi 8 neggulo yabadde nga warning okulaga gavumenti nti tunyigirizibwa ekitugazawo amaduuka gaffe emisolo mingi egijjibwa ku bintu ebiyingizibwa mu ggwanga gye tuyita import duty naddala ku ngoye ebitundu 35 bingi nga n'ebitundu 25 olede byali bingi. So tugamba nti omusolo gwa import duty gukkeko guddeyo ku bitundu 2. Then tulina values ziri waggulu nnyo walinga bakubala omusolo ku system ya URA ziri waggulu nnyo ate nga teziri standard. So tugamba values zikkeko wansi zibeere wansi ate nga ziri standard tezambuka tezikirira.
Bayogedde kumwogera ku nsonga ya EFRIS kyenkana buli lunaku ne tulowooza nti oba oli awo abantu be mugigamba nabo basobola okutegeera ebizibu byammwe, naye ate waliwo obwetaavu bw'okusolooza engeri y'okusolooza omusolo eya EFRIS. Lwaki mulowooza nti ebatuukidde okuvaako enkana wano?
Tetugamba nti omusolo sitwagala kuwa musolo, n'enkola ya EFRIS sigamba nti tugirwanyisa mu bugenderevu, naye ekizibu ekiriwo EFRIS etulemye okutegeera tebanasensitizinga kigambo EFRIS kutuyingiramu na kumanya ekola etya eyamba etya and what have you. So tusaba EFRIS egira ekyasigala mu factories gyemaze ebbanga erindeko okujja ewaffe mu maduuka basooke bagisomese bulungi, naye n'abagisomesa bennyininyini tebannagitegeera. Ekyokubiri, nze ng'omusuubuzi mpa kye twandiise VAT nga nyingiza ebintu mu ggwanga ne bwe mbisuubula mu factory. Kati bw'oŋŋamba nti ŋŋende ku nkola eno ya EFRIS ekitegeeza eyo ŋŋenda kuwa ddaabo taxation, ŋŋenda kuwa VAT nga nyingiza ebintu ate ne mu dduuka mperemu ki VAT.
Kati amaduuka muggaddewo, tukimanyiiko nti mwe renti owamwe mumusasula mu nnaku z'omwezi 15 awo muggaddewo mufiirwa, ekitongole ekisolooza nakyo mukifiiriza. Mugenda kweddaabulula mutya era mugenda kusobola mutya okuddemu?
Twamala emyezi 7 mu lockdown nga tuli waka nga tuli akawunga na bijanjaalo, naye bwe twakomawo mu Kampala twasobola okusasula renti ebbanga lye tumaze ewaka. Ku lunaku lwa Friday President Museveni batutegeezezza minisita wa Kampala nti bagenda bategese appointment okusinkana president. Tusuubira ekinaava mu nsisinkagano eno wakati waffe nga president egenda kutusobozesa okuggulawo amaduuka gano. Sisuubira nti tusobola okusinkana omukulembeze w'eggwanga embeera eno nesigala nga weebadde, kuba ffe tukkiriza nti president bamulimba, bamutegeeza nti basensitizinga ddaba ki abasuubuzi. Ekituufu twagala okutegeeza president na bonna abatulaba EFRIS tennaba kubeera sensitized enough mu basuubuzi. Ekyokusatu mu busuubuzi wano tubeerawo ne competition. Leero bwe naabeera n'akuuma kano aka EFRIS nga neighbour takalina, ekitegeeza nze bagenda kubeera nga bandaba nga neighbour nga talabwa. Omusolo guno nze gusobola okunnemesa ogwongeramu oli agula ng'ate neighbour ye atakaliiko asazeeko ensimbi ezo. Kigenda kugoba bakastomers baki bangi. Bwe kibeera kyakujja batusomese tukitegeere ate kibeere kya Uganda yonna. Naye essaawa zino tugamba EFRIS eno system eno esigale ng'ekyali mu bamanufacturers. Omusolo guno ogwa import duty gukomewo gudde ku bitundu 2. Abantu badduse mu zi business, abantu baweddewo, abantu baavuwadde. Values ku URA zakulamuza bulamuza. Oli nagereka omusolo nakusabaho obukadde 5 n'omugamba nina 2 n'agamba kale 45 nina 25 tosobola kutandika kulamuza musolo gwa ggwanga nga system eringa eyo ne mukyalawo. So ensonga ya URA nekyali nzibu nnyo, obutali bwenkanya bukyali mu kitongole kya URA. Malo nti nsasudde omusolo muki mutono naye nga lisiiti zennina, stamp zennina za URA n'abankutte ba URA. Kati buno bubbi kiki?
So if you've heard most of those things, Ibrahim Bossa and all the experts in studio, including Dalton Kawesa, some of the points that have actually been made in that particular line is that the fundamental canons of taxation, including the principle of certainty that someone should really know and be certain of the amount of taxes that they should pay, is in some of the instances actually breached. Could that be the modus operandi of the Uganda Revenue Authority, or something could not actually be right in that particular regard? Traders are also raising concerns about the fact that they've not been sensitized enough to understand the electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution. But the question is, introduced in 2019, how much more time does the Uganda Revenue Authority have to teach the traders to the full understanding of the electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution? Speaking about the value added tax, or actually the import duty that is actually levied on goods that are entering into the country, traders are saying that this is way too much on 30.
Well, I have lost Hakim Wamamba, but pretty much he has given us 80% of what is downtown. Let me come to Kayondo. No, I beg your pardon. Let me come, yes, Kayondo. The market seems to be yours.
Okay.
No standards in tax assessment. And this is a big conversation out there. We have had different strikes, including at one point the saloon owners were also up in arms that you're giving them a tax that is higher than they're supposed to be. Why don't you have standards?
Dalton, if I may cut you short, and the viewers out there.
Before you come, he raises 3 fundamental questions, and you have listened to them. I want you to use this minute to respond to what the chairperson of the association said, but also some of the issues that we raised in before we went for that break.
First of all, Dalton, the issue of educating our taxpayers, it is true, like they are saying, that we may have not perhaps reached every Tom and John, yet we are supposed and mandated to do so, but it is also not true that we are simply sleeping. Pretty often, we've gone live. Pretty often, you realize that there is a new strategy in this current regime where we have procured mobile offices that are being used to do sensitization of taxpayers. I have personally moved to almost all media stations trying to sensitize Ugandans, our dear taxpayers, about what is happening at URA, EFRIS inclusive. However, I also request our taxpayers out there to have a sense of need, because pretty often even you, Dalton, and maybe Mr. Ssekito, because for him he has a need and he wants to know these things. But if you went and did a survey out there, how many Ugandans find Twaha talking about EFRIS on, say, CBS or any other media station, and they don't turn out and look for music? So my plea to our taxpayers is that as we try to aim higher, to reach them down there, let them also try to, although a taxman is never loved, but let them pick the positive that they require that benefits them. That's one take from my side. And I pledge on behalf of URA and the management of URA that we are going to do a massive, we are going to get out of the offices and ensure that the traders get to understand the EFRIS.
But also speak to the approach. Even when we went to the field, and these are issues that are coming up, why do you need the military? Why do you put, it looks like you put a cart before the horse.
Dalton, I think, yes, the approach may not be so good, but also, like history has shown us, you know very well that a taxman is never liked, even in biblical times. And all the books of religion speak about this. So it will be too dangerous for the employer to send it to a son of someone, to people who have had issues boiling. Because, like we've already said, that this is simply a spark. Mr. Ssekito has already highlighted. Even the chairman of the arcade traders, arcade something, has already highlighted that EFRIS is not the spark. So if you really know that these people are aggrieved, you saw what happened to one policeman who was enforcing law and the stone came from somewhere and he perished. Would you love to have such scenarios? Because these military people are not going there to threaten. If they do so, then they are doing something wrong. And the supervisor who gets out with them should be held accountable.
Do you acknowledge the gap that the approach was wrong? It ended up in people asking for bribes, what they've called kintukidogo, and note that you are not engaged over these matters, but you are engaged by the traders, and you seemed not to have taken their counsel.
The kintukidogo part coming in, what I have...
It is a symptom of something, yes? And that is what the traders have told URA.
I think there is ongoing, there is an ongoing dialogue between the traders and URA. It is not cast in on stone.
Mr. Dalton,
yes.
There, for over 20 years, KACITA has been engaging URA. And this business of calling them monsters and them calling us thieves had already ceased.
True.
You remember the regime of your namesake, Mr. Kawesa.
Yes.
The tax clinics did a lot of sensitization, groups of 40 to 30 people in an arcade and in the same item dealing. We are all sensitized about this. You just wonder, what is a policy that brings back the gun? The gun has not been so popular in collection of taxes. You remember the SPRS regime?
Yes.
And how it flopped. So the moment you get out the bottle and take it to the most congested place called the Kiku, you are inviting danger. We had to do every skirmish, and we have tipped to the CG and to Sandra, the head of EFRIS implementation, or how they needed to withdraw, and then we go back one-on-one. But it all didn't hit. Yes.
Please address that issue.
I think what I may have to...
Why is so locked on something? Because according to what he says, you seem to be very obstinate in approach.
I think, like I was talking before he interjected, that this is not cast in stone. We are now seeing what is happening. And of course, the top brass is going to go back on the drawing board because we need each other ultimately.
Yeah, indeed.
We need each other.
Pamela, let me bring you in at this point. When you had our Wampamba interview, the gentleman talked about let EFRIS remain with the manufacturers, if I got him right?
That's what.
And the trader seem to say that when you pick VAT from the manufacturer and you come to follow it up through even the retailer, that's double taxation. As the expert, I want to pick your view on that.
I think we need to separate the two issues. First of all, I want to mention and be on record that EFRIS is actually a very good system. And it's not only used in Uganda. There are other countries that have adopted EFRIS or something similar. And the intention is actually to ease compliance from a VAT perspective. Because right now, if you have your EFRIS system installed, it's linked to your system, it draws information out of your system, pre-populates a VAT return for you, and you can be able to just review it and submit it. So it's not a bad system at all. And to your question around double taxation, VAT is a value-added tax. And if well implemented, there's no such thing as double taxation because one person produces a product, adds value, charges VAT to the next individual. They claim their input VAT, so the net effect there is just tax on your added value. And when it flows through to the trader is also selling those products. So they incur a cost on which they then add their profit and then charge VAT and account for it. So they should also be able to get their input VAT, account for output VAT. I think the real challenge...
I'll bring you in. I'll bring you in. Give her a chance. I'll bring you in.
The real challenge comes, in my view, in the first issue being, there was the aspect of the threshold.
Yes.
Are you making 150 million?
Yes.
Therefore, should you account for VAT? Because that's the same threshold for actually accounting for VAT, leave alone EFRIS. So if you're making 150 million, you should account for VAT. If you should account for VAT, you should register for VAT, which then means you should have EFRIS in place. Now, I take the point that the gentleman was making because people have not understood EFRIS. It is becoming very difficult to implement it. And Mr. Toha, I would like you to take that message away. And I'm glad, I like your pledge to say we are going to sensitize the public. If we have used methods such as coming to television and speaking to the public and they are not working, let's think about an alternative approach. He just mentioned, Mr. Ssekito mentioned the fact that they used to have tax clinics. Can we try that, for example? Yeah. So for me, what I'm hearing is there is need for more sensitization. If the current approach of sensitization is not working, can we employ a different method of sensitization? There's no double taxation. There's actually goodwill from the traders, but can we walk the journey with them to help them comply?
Okay. I want you to pick your mind on that very point.
For the technical person.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
When she said, no, actually, there's no double taxation.
Yeah, the challenge is, Mr. Dalton, I'll give you an example of how the majority of traders in Kampala are informal and therefore not registered for VAT. An importer comes at the border, pays VAT, also pays withholding tax. That's 18 plus 6, 24. By the time the goods are being put at the shelves, this person will never claim even a shilling back.
That's true.
So whatever will be added on that is a total loss to the business. What it does is increasing the price to the consumer, and unfortunately, all traders are equally consumers. I did in electronics. I'm a consumer of sugar. So when the money is passed to the final person, I'm also a final person. But leave that aside. A person who brought the goods in the shop is also awaited for income tax. You paid the income tax, payable in advance in the name of withholding tax. And now the 18% VAT that you are not going to claim when somebody slumps a system like this, you see somebody just bringing a bagger to take your money. The backfire you see in the field now is the picture that is on the ground. That's why we were advocating for a ceasefire, so that what do we do when this good system is misinterpreted?
So we're just
Can
choosing
we
words,
have
but
more
there's a double
converts?
taxation somewhere.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Yes?
Can we see more converts? There are people who are comfortable with it. Can you?
I'll give you a chance
Can
to
I tell
answer,
you
yes.
what is happening at the anti-corruption court? Every week, we have been standing surety for traders who have been fined the 6 million for a receipt that went wrong, another 6 million. If you don't have money, they will just put an agency notes on accounts. If you can't pay, there is no money, then you go to prison. So people are being taken to prison. People have demanding notices for EFRIS. And you know, URA had a better system of how you can even go to an agency notice. You make an appeal, you go to the debt collection department, so many reminders. For EFRIS, it is instant. You fail to pay, go to Rizira. So people are saying, is this a new era called EFRIS? Where is the good working relationship between the association, between the business community? Where is the appeal mechanism? At what level do you appeal for a receipt of 6 billion that even forces URA to communicate to my suppliers that I deserve no supplies before I pay the 6 million? So this became hostile, and it can be seen by what is happening.
I think I would want to deviate like this more.
Yes.
From my
Even contact their suppliers.
I would want to deviate like this
please.
more.
Okay, get to the issue, yes,
And,
that has been raised.
Clarify something, that it is not true that when you are an importer and you pay VAT at importation, that it's not claimable.
No, I don't think he said that.
If you're not VAT registered.
If you are not VAT
Yes,
registered.
Okay,
but
okay.
at one, it's rare to have a person who is importing, perhaps even if it's one container in a year, to be below the threshold of 37.5 in the 3 consecutive calendar months. That resonates to the 150 millions. So you find that where Mr. KACITA,
You don't
Mr.
mind.
Ssekito, sorry.
That's my
Yes,
name.
yes. Mr. Ssekito and our dear traders out there get the problem from is one thing. Perhaps they end up fearing to communicate to the commissioner or to the tax body that they have reached the threshold to register and benefit from the input tax that will get when they are incurring the input and then output mechanism when they are importing. So if they are not registered, absolutely, they will not claim, and therefore it will be as if they are final consumers. Yet, VAT is a multi-stage tax. Whose burden, who bears the burden, is the final consumer. Even when you're a final consumer, like he has said, yes, that only part that you consume is what will be a burden to you.
Well, he has tried to explain. Let me come back to Ssekito. About the meeting, because this is shrouded in politics now. Yes, than the core of the issues that the traders are raising, and partly what URA is talking about.
Yes.
When are you going to meet? Is the president's meeting clear?
I wouldn't even mind meeting the president personally. The technical team at the Ministry of Finance, the PSST Ramadan Govi, came and analyzed all these issues. We explained the significance of how people who are manufacturers and opening shops is causing a danger to this economy. We showed how charging taxes in kilos is chasing all the businesses in the garments and the textile sector, sending them back home. We analyzed issues of how Ugandans need more time to understand the EFRIS. And while the reality would be for VAT registered people to be the benefactors or beneficiaries of this. Unfortunately, majority are not, and therefore it is a direct expenditure to them. And this is a reality on the ground. So how do you remove this? Do you use the force, or do you sensitize them to understand more and then become registered? This is where we have the problem. So the meeting today, as I leave studios here, we have a scheduled meeting with the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, who thought that we had met juniors before. We are now meeting the seniors, starting with the Honorable Minister of Finance. If interventions can be made and the concessions given.
So what time is that meeting for the benefit of the viewer that they want?
10 a.m. It's 10 a.m. And it is a purely technical meeting because the technical staffs of Minister of Finance are there, the URA senior staffs are there, the different chosen people among us, the trading community, are there in different associations. We want to see the minister in face. Because we had thought that talking to the permanent secretary and the secretary to the treasury, who is an economist, would take the matter back home. So meeting the president would just be wishing him and summarizing to him what we have gone through all this time. I am sure the president has the capacity and he has been picking all this. So meeting him, like the disease we have as Ugandans, before matters reach the president, solutions are not gotten. Otherwise, as KACITA, we would be very comfortable meeting the technical people. Technical people tell the ministers, and the matters end there. But if you see a heap of letters, including Parliament, including the President's office, including the Prime Minister, including it is only 2 sections that have been responding. That's Uganda Revenue Authority and the Minister of Finance. Only. The rest throw us to the dogs.
Well, compliance, Pamela, coming to you. Compliance is an elephant. Tax compliance is an elephant in the room and largely to the taxpayer. From where you come from, yes, how can we ensure that this tax compliance and also there is trade order and trade harmony between the traders, yes, but also the tax person?
You're right. Tax compliance is very critical. And I think the reason that we are finding ourselves in this situation, URA inclusive, is because we are struggling with tax compliance. And it could be 2 ways. One, which we have already talked about, and I won't belabor, the fact that people don't understand what needs to be done. But 2, there are people that are supposed to pay tax that are not paying tax, just outrightly not paying tax. So we want to be able to bring all those people into the net of taxation, and really, hence the question of how are we distributing the tax fairly? Are we widening the tax base? I think we've been seeing reports that, you know, out of how many million people in Uganda? Close to 50 million. We still have only about 2 million people paying taxes. And if we don't move beyond that point of expanding that base, we are going to continue seeing these issues, because there's fatigue. As an employee, I pay tax of, 40%. That's before I think about the indirect taxes, VAT, excise duty when I'm buying fuel on the pump. When I go to, to the supermarket to buy things, I'm paying VAT. So that fatigue is what is causing an issue. So if we can look out for certain sectors where we are seeing low compliance and put our energies there. For example, we have wealthy individuals in this town, high net worth individuals, we call them. Are they paying their fair share of taxes before we go to the same communities that we are squeezing and squeezing and squeezing? Because the outcry really is, you're squeezing us. There's so much going on and you're expecting more from us. Are there certain sectors that we are still handling with kid gloves? And can we find ways of extending to those sectors? As Ministry of Finance, from a policy perspective, agriculture, we've talked about agriculture so many times. It's a significant contributor to our economy, but they are not paying fair share of taxes. And there are all sorts of arguments as to why we are still keeping them out of that space. But is it tenable anymore? Should we be looking beyond the sectors that have been squeezed enough? When you look at the bills that have just been, that are being, discussed in Parliament, taxes being introduced on the same aspects, on the same goods, on the same services, targeting the same audience. And I think that is where this fatigue of non-compliance is coming from.
Thank you very much. The issues that are being raised, Kayondo, is one of her submissions. She appreciated EFRIS, but also the issue of compliance, which you're facing, and also the fact that you seem to be taxing the same people. It brings me to the question. For instance, in this scenario where we find ourselves, why insisting on pushing a system that is not bonding well with the people that hold 70% of the economy?
To start with, if EFRIS is well perceived and implemented, EFRIS...
Is there a chance to put it on hold first?
Let me finish. EFRIS is a solution that was developed and can aid the tax body to widen the tax base. How? We have got a lot of informal sector, like you said. And the informal sector is out there, and we want to tap into the informal sector. But when we get an EFRIS system, they would want to associate, because they are not in an island. They are also plying their business within Uganda, and at one point associating with the big boys, if I may say. And if the big boys are registered for EFRIS, it would require them to ensure or to make, as long as you're a small boy and you want to do business with the big boys, you will be required to register for EFRIS, such that the big boy will be able to claim input tax. And as you register for EFRIS, we are monitoring you at the ultimate end.
For context in this, and just use your analogy, the big boy and the small boy. Is the big boy the Chinese who is a manufacturer and that was as a retailer? And the Sekitos are the small boys?
The big boys are the persons who are already registered on VAT, who are having the threshold of 150. Okay? And the other ones, I am referring to the informal sector. The people who have not registered business, they don't have a business name, they are there. But they're trying to come up. They're upcoming artists in business. We want to facilitate them such that they don't continue to be upcoming artists, but to graduate ultimately. And in the end, they will get on our tax register and the burden will be spread.
So how sustainable is their position?
May I tell you one...
How tenable, I meant to say, how tenable is their position that we will have this system work?
No, you know, can I tell you one mistake that URA did? Not even a month. URA started enrolling every landlord and fixing them on EFRIS. Multi-billion worth of businesses in hundreds. At the same time, a street vendor is also put on the same system at the same time. What a coincidence. The landlord is now pushing the money that one pays for rent, because this is a value-added tax, to the tenant, and the tenant is resisting. Now, how don't you think that deal with the big boys? I have 10 buildings, all are now put on EFRIS, and they want me to bare naked, so that everything that I'm earning can be seen. I cannot bear this because I have bank loans to pay. So, because you said this is a final consumer tax, can the tenant pay it? The same tenant that you want to pay the rent is being forced by the landlord to subscribe at the same time. All the goods is selling, they are also adding at the same time. This was a poor strategy by Uganda Revenue Authority. Why did they deal with this catch, a big fish that they caught in the name of the landlords? We even encouraged and advised them, please, take this for now so that you prepare to take another one for the next time.
Did they comply with the advice?
No.
Why didn't you comply?
Why, if that had been done, you would not see. No big
you don't
man
want
can
solutions.
close the
They
shop.
provided solutions which you relegated.
We didn't relegate the solutions, but there are many options that work. But as you're deep diving into the sea, and you see that this tactic will not lead us to the promised land, then ultimately we'll be forced to get the other views
but
and all that.
From what you have said, there are so many ways to skin a rat. And it seems your method has brought about the question of the integrity of the system, but also has caused chaos. So how do you get out of it?
The integrity of the system surely is not there, but perhaps the mode and approach is what I think we can go back to the drawing board. First, most importantly, is to get down the last man. To the last man through our foot soldiers, sensitize Ugandans, make them aware. Even those traders that are supposed to comply by registering because they are above the threshold, but because they don't know and therefore they are losing out on the input tax credit that would be allowed, get to understand the benefit that will accrue from this system. And ultimately, I think when they understand well, we shall walk the journey together.
Pamela, what are the consequences if the said meeting between the traders and finance does not yield results?
That's an interesting question for me to respond to. I'm not sure I can speak to the consequences from Mr. Sekito's perspective, because the traders have their reasons as to why they are rioting. They have their reasons as to why they want to meet the president.
They're hurting.
And as to whether they can sustain a position where they continue to close shops, that's a different issue, and Mr. Ssekito can speak to it. But should that situation hold, then it definitely trickles down to the rest of the economy, because as we said earlier, it's a big percentage of the economy. All of us buy most of the things that we use on a daily basis from these traders. So we don't want to find ourselves in a situation like that. But for me, that said, I don't envisage that situation happening. Like I said earlier, I'm seeing goodwill from the traders. They're saying would like to discuss, would like to have a conversation, would like to dialogue. So that's very, very positive. So I'm hoping that situation does not arise.
And I want to put it to Ssekito. Is there, from where you come from and the team, are you ready to set off a middle ground?
Yes, we are ready to set for a middle ground. Like we have been negotiating for quite a while. There is a time we even listed items that can quell the situation. One of them was that out of the 47 lines that are still measurable in kilos as regards the importation of goods, can we only have 4
stocks
removed from kilos and they pay the punitive 35% as climax? 2, there is a time we even suggested that can government draw a plan for us? What is the transition to remove these shops of manufacturers that are also traders? We don't feel comfortable buying from them in the factories and trading with them as competitors on the streets. If they can show us a plan of action, we don't have a problem with that. 3, there is the issue of, there are issues that have been talking about the turnover. I can tell you that it is no longer relevant to think that 150 million per annum is still worth being the threshold. We have presented this to the ministry and we are proposing at least like 500 millions so that it makes sense. If you break it down 150 millions, you are only making 470,000 a day. Remove the costs of that day, you will only retain like 250. This is not worth. So these are issues that can continue. The minister and the ministers must wake up. If the traders started agitation for help since September last year, I bore witness when Chairman Dr. Tedious was signing the letters to the different authorities. It took us a press conference to declare that we are soon closing, that the person who called us was General Sale in Namunkekera because of the pride of Chinese. He's playing patronage to so many of them. But not the interest of the traders, not the interest of EFRIS, not the interest of taxes in kilos, not the interest of how people pay taxes, and then proper officers give you pay 100 millions before you reach to offload, somebody stops you on the way. Those are administrative issues that URA can handle, but the policy issues, the ministers were not, we are reluctant. And I'm sorry to say this, if the Minister of Trade continues to behave the way they are, with the very arrogant permanent secretary.
Why are you dragging Geraldine?
No, because she technically is our entry point. If we have any issues as traders, particularly.
And she has supported you, not so?
No. I put it on her that she did not do enough. When 10 groups went to meet her, she decided to chase away the 9 because we had raised the point when she was still talking. I was the one making the presentation all the way from the bushes of Namunkekera. And the ministry had been awakened by the general to meet us and solve these issues. This lady told us to get out. We got out peacefully. And we wrote back that if there is any other opportunity for us to meet, we still had the issues. Today is April 16th. The matter was raised on around the 8th of February. We have not even had a phone call for the ministry to call us and address these concerns. How do you regard that? Okay. Look at the UNBS. The fracas there, it's a total fiasco. You have a matter of an industrial input, you raise a concern, a minister writes to you a letter, you take it to the UNBS, UNBS says no. Yet the minister has powers to waive if it is an industrial import. There you don't know who owns what. Whether the UNBS is led by under the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives is a different story. It is also an authority of its own. All that is at the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. So the earlier they wake up to know that there is a segment of traders, the majority of who are not educated, the retired ones, the younger ones who have studied and have not gotten employed, it is all the retirement point. We have all of these people. Yes. We must be sensitively and carefully handled. Otherwise, if they make you to lead the KACITA for one day, the following day they might beat you. Because you need to be very careful.
From this conversation, Kayondo, it looks, from the conversation ever since we started it around 9, on your part, I see some insufficient support that has been accorded to the traders. Do you have commitment that you're going to create support to these traders transition, understand these systems?
Like I said, that when you're moving deep in the sea, and you see that the initial tactics that you're using,
this is your parting shot because you're closing,
to sail are not making you reach the shoreline. Ultimately, you have to revise whatever and see whatever can be in position to make you sail. What is our take? We are promising the traders that we are going to get to them, listen to them, hear them loud, okay? Make them understand the system, its good side, the merits, and demystify the demerits that are seeming to outweigh the ultimate goal.
Pamela, we've had this conversation with us. Would you say that, and the concern largely, do you think as an expert in tax, do you think UR is on the right track, or there are really things that you think, and you can be very specific, they need to address in order to have this harmony here?
I think I'll start off by commending the URA and saying that they are actually on the right track. And Mr. Ssekito here earlier agreed and said they have actually given them an open door to have discussions, which is a good thing. The second reason I say they are on good track is because the objective is clear. We want to widen the tax base. We want to make sure we bring everybody in the taxation space. They have put in place mechanism. Digitization is one of the ways that we can grow the tax base. So again, that's a positive thing that we are seeing. So in terms of putting in place structures and preparing themselves to widen that tax base, it's positive. I think what's critical at this point in time is the ability to take feedback. We talk about canons of taxation or principles of taxation. What we are hearing the traders asking for is, let's have fairness. Let's have certainty in terms of the taxes that are being collected. Let's have consistent application across. Don't pick and choose who you're subjecting to these measures. So I think the ability to take that feedback, sit back, reflect on it, use it, and say, how best do we make sure that these principles of taxation are achieved in a manner that's then going to help all of us achieve what we are looking for, which is distributing the tax burden fairly. So that's my view, Dalton.
Okay, Ssekito, finally to you, very interesting.
Yes.
You see, what you've just showed that the government response to the plight of traders has been largely insufficient, and you have laid it bare on the feet of the PS Minister of Trade, that is Geraldine Sally. How sustainable is this strike in case government does not change, or government becomes indifferent to your plight?
I might not be able to answer the question, but I know that we have a scheduled program. Tomorrow, 17th, we're delivering a petition to Parliament asking for it to be treated as a matter of national importance. The following day, 18th, we are delivering to the Minister of Finance again, but also to the Prime Minister. Then if it comes to Monday, that's the last date for which we consider the involvement. The rest, we are all people of government. In
an environment where traders depend on daily income.
Yes.
Is this something you
we want them, since we survived the 2 years of COVID, 2 weeks, 1 week, we can survive without COVID.
There is such a
so, but what I'm asking the traders is to stay calm. Let them not block opportunities to negotiate with the government. Because I was hearing some people say, why are you negotiating? No, we are not power.
It's actually a big question out there.
We are not power hungry. Even if government fail, I cannot.
Maybe you can answer this as we part.
Yes.
We have had voices say the president, in case he meets KACITA, they should not meet just the leadership. They want to meet, a sort of taurus.
The president I know is a very brave man. We have met him in...
Have you had this conversation?
Yes, I've had it. And I have no problem. It is not a sign of mistrust. It's a sign of confidence and hearing from the horse's mouth. They think that maybe we might fear to raise some concerns before the president, and they will be having the courage. But one day we asked the president that the traders wanted to hear his word verbatim. He organized the conference center, and over 1,500 traders met, and we agreed. I know he can do it today. So my last message to the business community is to stay calm. We are still negotiating. For as long as our issues are met, we shall have all avenues of communicating to you, ladies and gentlemen, no matter we have met the president or not. What we want is our issues addressed.
There you go. It's Ssekito, the spokesperson of KACITA. My mother told me that Sekito's shoot to stardom was VAT. He led the VAT strike. I don't know how that...
No. I was just leaving school, and I was watching from the background when the Chanjos, the Mpimas, and the Mugarus were just the ones clapping, because by then I was leaving school.
All right. Thank you for sparing time to speak to us.
Please.
I definitely wish you well in the deliberation. Pamela Nantawa. right?
Natamba.
Natamba.
Yes.
Natamba, beg your pardon. I am a partner and also head. She's from PwC. Thank you for sparing time this morning to speak to us. And the man in the hot seat. that is Twa Kayondo, Domestic Tax Officer, Uganda Revenue Authority. Thank you very much, the viewers, for our loyal audience, for always waking up to us right from 6 a.m. to this very point here on the Morning Breeze. My name is Dalton Kawesa. We'll definitely be following up this conversation. What are the outcomes, or what will be the outcomes of the meeting between the KACITA leadership and the leadership in Ministry of Finance? What promise will the PSST Ramadan Gobi give to the traders? We will give you the news as it is. Stay here and stay blessed.